What is going on, everybody? I am so thrilled that you decided to purchase the Hancock effect. This is something that is truly, I'm not blowing smoke up your butt here, this is truly a very special effect for me. This is something I literally do every single paid gig I do, but it's also something that is also really nice to have in your quiver for doing some impromptu shows as well, because it requires nothing other than a bill and a marker, both of which you can borrow. So this is literally one of my favorite creations, and I'm so excited to kind of delve into it with you right now. Come join me. All right, friends, can I borrow a bill? What, you're on the other side of the screen? That's okay, we'll just use mine. But as you know, all magic tricks kind of have to have a beginning and an end. And I'm gonna tell you right now, this one right here, this is the end. Oh, it's true, right here. Now, I know you don't really have the context to know why it's significant, but I promise you, once we get to the end, stunning. Stunning effect, stunning ending. You're gonna love it. But it does beg the question, if this is the end, where's the beginning? Now, it does kind of depend from time to time, trick to trick, dollar to dollar, but I'm gonna assume that it's probably gonna be right around here or so. Okay, so we got the ending and the beginning. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. All magic tricks kind of have to have a beginning and an end. If a magic trick didn't have a beginning, well, the ending wouldn't really make much sense. If a magic trick didn't have an end, that's what we call an ambitious card routine, my friends. That killed me. Basically what I'm saying is we got to start somewhere, and I was thinking if we had to start somewhere, we might as well start at the beginning. I've been told by a nanny that it's a very good place to start. So if you were here yourself, you would take the marker yourself, and you, my friend, would sign your name. Since you're not here, we're going to sign the best name that we can, which is P3. Perfecto. Oh, good. So you guys signed at the beginning. Well, technically, it's the end of the beginning, which is not to be confused with the beginning of the end, which isn't even a thing. And even if it was, it wouldn't make sense because we don't care, because we can't end until we end with the end of the end, which I told you about at the beginning. Basically what I'm saying is, if you want to see something crazy weird, don't take your eyes off of your initials at the beginning. Oh, in fact, you guys can hold on to that yourselves. In fact, if you were here, you could hold on to the bill yourselves as well with your other hand. Since you're not, I'll take that for you. And all you're going to do is you're going to throw your initials back on the bill. Not yet. We have to wait till the end. It's annoying sometimes, but it's just a waiting game. Oh, okay, we got to the end. Go ahead and throw them back on. Oh, I felt it. I felt it. It's true. Oh, guys, come on. I told you when we get to the end. I told you this from the beginning. When we get to the end, this is going to be an ending that is going to be absolutely stunning, and you're going to love it. So, my friends, from beginning to end, your P3, your signature, and I want you to keep this as a little gift from you to you. Thank you. So the history of this effect is kind of weird. It's kind of a weird one because I only stumbled upon this concept after playing around with another concept that I was playing around with a few years ago. It was a penetration effect, an impromptu pen through bill that was really neat, but I was curious as to how else we could use that concept. So I was playing around with different ways I could use that original fold, and it didn't work. There's nothing else you could do. I drained that barrel dry, so to speak. But I realized if you make one little tweak with this fold, you open up the biggest can of worms that you could possibly do. And there's so many different things that you can do with this fold now. But we're going to go over my absolute favorite one today, which is called the Hancock effect. All right, so in order to do the Hancock effect, you literally just need $1. Now, when I say dollar, I mean American $1 bill. This is something that is exclusive to the design on an American $1 bill. That's not to say that it won't work with any other foreign currency, but I have experimented with Mexican currency and British currency and European currency, and I haven't found another one that works. So this is fairly exclusive to the American $1 bill. That also means it doesn't work too well with a $5 bill, $10 bill, 20, an American one is what you need, okay? But it can literally be any one. You also need a marker. That's it, okay? First, I'm going to go over the actual fold without going over how to actually put on the markings first, just so you can get an idea of how the technique works and why the technique works, okay? So you're going to borrow the bill, and you're going to fold it in half with George Washington on the outside. Okay? You want to make sure that it is as precise as possible without ruining your flow too much. Okay? Now, here's the big difference if you're right-handed as opposed to left-handed. If you are a right-hander, which I assume most of you are going to do your second fold with "of America" on the inside. Okay? So you're going to fold it in hamburger style, again, like this. To the lefties out there, like me, you're going to fold the "United" on the inside. Okay? Now, you're going to unfold, apparently back to half, but you're actually only going to unfold one of the layers. So if you look from my perspective, you can see one layer is still folded in half. Okay? So you fold it in half again, then you unfold, but you only unfold one layer. So unbeknownst to the spectators, you're actually in this position. Okie dokie. Now, from this point, you're going to take your ring finger and middle finger on kind of both hands, going to clip it and fold it up. So there's actually like an external pocket on the outside of this point. But because you're pinching everything together like this, you can't see that. As you're giving this a fold and a crease, you want to make sure that your fingers are covering that seam so they don't suspect anything, okay? At this point, you have a thick part of the bill away from your fingers, and the thin part is behind your fingers, okay? So you want to take the thin part, which is behind your dominant hand, and you're going to take your thumb and fold it in back around like this, okay? So effectively, it looks like it's folded in eighths. But at this point, you're going to flip everything around 180. And here's the cool part. What you do is you take your dominant thumb and you put it in the side like this, and you're going to unfold it just like so. But as you're doing that, you're going to be met with a little bit of resistance based on how you folded it previously. And because of that, you're actually going to get a little tube opening up here. And as you're doing that, you're going to thumb this down and make a crease. So you're actually going to make a little triangle from the back. So it looks like there's quite a lot going on, and to a degree, I suppose there is. But the cool thing is, from the front, you have a bill that looks like it is just folded in quarters. But you're in a very unique position because you've actually folded an extra layer on that bottom half. Okay? Now, there are a few discrepancies. One is that the ones are facing in towards each other, so one's upside down and one right side up. No one's ever going to notice that. And the other thing is you do have part pyramid and part eagle here. But because you're going to be holding it thusly, no one's ever going to see that because your fingers are going to be over the part that has both of the images. Okay? So when you display it like this, it literally just looks like a bill folded in quarters, but again, you have that secret flap that you're going to use in a devilishly clever way. And I'm going to show you that right now. Okay, so now that you know the basic fold, let's get into how to actually put on the marking so you can do the Hancock effect. I'm going to teach as if you are a right-hander, as I assume the majority of you are, and then I'll go over how to do it if you're a lefty like me. Okay, so when you borrow the bill, you're going to go over to this side here of the eagle, and you're going to go a little bit above halfway. So this is the bottom, this is the top, halfway, a little bit above halfway, and draw your line. And think of this in terms of quarters. Here's first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. Will be right about here, and you want to go a little bit past that quarter. So basically, you're making a square, so to speak, that's a little bit bigger than 1/8 of the bill. Okay, that's going to be really important in just a little bit. Then you're going to go over to the pyramid side, and you're going to draw an arrow on the up to the outside of the circle. So inside of the circle, outside of the circle, and you're going to go slightly less than halfway and draw your arrow. Okay? From this point, you're going to go into that basic fold. And again, I'm going to fold it as if I'm a right-hander. And because I'm a right-hander, I'm folding America on the inside. I'm going to unfold one layer and fold everything up on the outside. And I'm going to take the thin part. This is the thick part, thin part. The thin part gets folded back and turn everything around. Then you take your dominant thumb, in this case my right, and I'm going to unfold everything up like this, and I'm going to make a crease right here from the back. So now it looks like you got that arrow and a space underneath for them to sign their initials. But here's the cool part. When they sign their initials, obviously two things happen. One, they are not actually signing underneath the arrow, and two, they are signing in the box that you already drew. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone, so to speak. Okay? Now, you should notice with this bill in particular, and you will run into this, there is a very big discrepancy here. One border is a little bit thicker than the other border. That's okay. Do not fret about that. Because when you go to extend the bill for them to sign it, here's how you do it. You're holding it with your forefingers on front and your thumbs up back, but then when you go to extend forward, you're going to just kind of rotate it and switch fingers so your thumbs are on top. And because your thumb's on top, they're not going to see that border discrepancy. Okay? You'll also see that there is a discrepancy with the circles here too. This circle extends over here. The eagle circle extends significantly further inward. Don't worry about that. You're putting your thumb right here too. They're never going to see anything. Okay? And you say, can you just kind of scrawl your initials right underneath the arrow? One other thing that's important to note is that as you're doing this, from the performer's point of view, you might think, oh, this is going to look terrible. Because as the performer, I can see that seam very clearly, but that's because the step principle is in play, which means as they're looking from this side, their line of sight is going to go from a higher elevation to a lower elevation, so they won't see that seam nearly as clearly as you will. That plus the very busy design makes it almost invisible. Okay? I've never gotten caught with this, I promise you. Okay? So I extend and I have them sign, and I make sure that I say underneath the arrow. Okay, and so they're going to sign whatever their initials are. And now you're ready to melt some minds. Okay, so you're in this position down here with your thumbs on top. After they have signed this, you're going to bring it back up, and you're going to rotate it back into that original position. Now keep in mind, you don't necessarily want to take either finger off for too long. So this is kind of your home base position, but as you're talking before the magic happens, you can let one of them go and kind of talk with your hands, keeping it in motion. As you're keeping it in motion, they're not going to see anything. You can also take it off this one and keep your hands in motion. A little subtlety I like to do, right before I'm about to do the change, is I like to take either one of my fingers, it really doesn't matter, and keep it on the bill, but kind of just rub the signature saying that it doesn't come off. But as I'm doing that, I'm still covering everything I need to cover. But it's a nice convincer that convinces them that everything is on the up and up. Okay? So now that you are in this position and it's signed, you are ready to make the signature vanish. So what you do is you're going to draw a little right angle right here. Now, you want to make sure that you're doing it a little bit above halfway here and a little bit over than 1/8 of the bill. Okay? So basically, you're making this portion of a square a little bit bigger than 1/8 of the bill. Okay? That's very important. You'll see why in just a little bit. Now, you're going to come over to the other side and draw an arrow. And I do this on the outside of the eagle right here. So it's about halfway up the circle, but on the outside. Okay? Now here's a very important thing that you need to remember. This is for the way I do it, me being a left-hander. If you are right-handed, it's going to be reversed. Okay? So the square will be on this side, and the arrow will be on the pyramid side. So we're going to get into how to make the signature vanish, but I got to tell you right now, that it is at least slightly counterintuitive, because you as a viewer, you right there, Mr. or Mrs. Magician, are probably going to think in terms of magic and what you already know. You're going to think, oh, it's a flap, so it's going to act like a flap. And you're probably thinking it's probably going to open up and be concealed behind your fingers. It's not the case. Okay? Banish that thought now, because that is not how this is going to work. Because in order for it to fully open, you're going to need a lot of finger movement, which means your fingers are going to have to extend and then retract. And that's way too much, and you don't need that. Okay? So I want you to get rid of any preconceived notion how you think this is actually going to be accomplished, and start at scratch. Okay? Because I figured out the best way to do it, and the best way to do it is that you don't actually ever undo the flap fully, okay? So I'll teach you from the very beginning. So you're going to take your dominant hand. Again, I'm teaching this as a right-hander, so I'm going to use my right middle finger. And with your non-dominant hand, you're going to swing up as if to pull this off, okay? And as I'm swinging up, I'm going to pinch with my non-dominant thumb and fingers above the flap. So here's the flap. I'm pinching it above the flap, okay? That's going to be my anchor point. So I'm going to keep this exposed for now so you can see what's going on. With my dominant hand, so my right hand for right now, as I'm covering, I'm going to squeeze pretty tightly with my thumb and middle finger, and I'm just going to pull down. I'm not going to extend. I'm not going to pull back. I'm not going to try to open. I'm literally just going to squeeze and pull down at the inner edge here. And what happens is this, okay? It folds up into almost a triangle thing, but it's not actually a triangle because you're not going to make a crease here, okay? You're literally just going to pull down, but you're going to pull down with all the fingers here. So it looks like nothing happens. Now exposed, it looks kind of silly, but when you swing up your non-dominant hand and pinch up above, and then you take your dominant hand and you pull down, it looks like there's very little motion that accomplishes this, and then you can take your non-dominant hand and pretend to take it off. So at this point, I'm concealing everything right here underneath the fingers, and you pull down and apparently give it to the spectator. Okay, so the full motion looks like this. Watch your initials, then you pull down, and you pull off, and you give it to them. Okay, so we're back with the right-handed Bill. And so at this point, you just took off the ink and you gave it to them to hold on to. Now, at this point, you are in quite the position, but it's very easy to get out of. Okay? You're going to put your thumb inside the triangle, okay? And you're going to rotate your dominant hand, your right hand, over so that your fingers are on top of that triangle, and you're just going to pull. So you're going to pull upward, and as you pull up, everything completely opens. And remember, at this point, they apparently still have the initials, so the effect is not done yet. So it's important that you're unfolding it so that they do not quite see that the initials have arrived already. Okay? So once you open it up, I say, I want you to hold on to this. Okay? And I might say that to a second spectator, or I might say that to the same spectator, but holding on to the other hand other than the initials. Okay? But before I do that, here's a very important piece of knowledge to impart, and that is, you can see that there are a bunch of creases in here. Most of them are okay, but the diagonal ones may be a little telltale. You don't want that. So as I open it up, I say, you know what, this is your bill. I want you to hold on to this. And I crumple it up, okay, destroying all the evidence, all those diagonal folds. And now I'm done, completely done. So I put this in a second spectator's hand, if possible, and then from there on, it's just acting, of course. And I have them throw the initials back on, and then in their hands, themselves, they can open it up. And you can see from arrow to box, the initials have traveled. It's their signature, their bill, and they can keep it for all eternity. And that is the basic Hancock effect. Okay, so there are a few considerations that you want to take into consideration when doing the Hancock effect. One is that because it is with United States currency, you definitely do not want to be backlit because it tends to be translucent, right? So when you're doing this fold, some parts of the bill are going to be thicker than others. So light is going to go through it at a different rate. So like the top of the bill might be more see-through than the bottom of the bill. It might give the game away, so to speak. So you want to make sure that you aren't super backlit. If you feel like you are, then do everything kind of closer to your chest, okay? And then everything is going to be fine. The other thing to consider, I kind of already said it, is it does really only work with American currency and $1 bills at that. So an American $1 bill is what you're going to want to use because of the fancy and busy design on it. Also the very symmetrical design. Okay, I've experimented with different currencies, experimented with British currency, experimented with European currency, experimented with Mexican currency, and either the designs don't quite line up or they just don't have a 1, which is important because remember one of those ones is going to be upside down, and if it was like a 5 or a 10 or a 20, it's going to be a lot more obvious that one of those is upside down because the 1 is pretty much rotationally ambiguous. It's really hard to see unless you're looking closely if it's right side up or upside down. So that's why it's almost like the American $1 bill is designed for this trick. Okay, but once you have this, you're ready to go anytime, anywhere, at a moment's notice. All right, friends, so we're going to do a quick annotated walkthrough of what you do. So now that you kind of know all the moves and everything that goes into it, you can see what the flow kind of looks like. I'm going to do it with a right-handed person in mind first. Okay, so you borrow the bill, and you're going to draw your square on the right-handed side and your arrow on the left-handed side. Now you're going to go into your fold, which is you fold it in half with George Washington on the outside, fold it in half again. If you're right-handed with America on the inside, you're unfolding one layer, presumably 2 though, and then this is my view, of course. I'm going to fold everything up, making a little pocket on the outside. And keep in mind that my fingers are covering this as I'm folding and pinching with my non-dominant hand here. At this point, I'm going to take my thin edge and fold it back towards me and flip everything around. Super important. At this point, you're going to take your dominant thumb, your right thumb in this case, and fold it up, making that little tube, creasing it down into a triangle. And now you can display that you have your dollar with the arrow pointing down and the space underneath to sign it. At this point, you're going to take the Sharpie and give it to them, and they are going to sign it, making sure your thumbs are covering the seam and any minor discrepancies that might be on the bill. And then they are going to write their initials. Then from here, you rotate back up, making sure that you can take off your fingers as you're talking and presenting, as long as when your hands are not moving, you put it back on together. Okay? And then remember, when you're going to do the move, you slide, or rather swing up your non-dominant hand and pinch above the flap. And now you're going to take your thumb and middle finger from your dominant hand, and you're just going to slide down, okay, with a lot of pressure. Okay? At this point, it's out of the way, so you can take the hand, your left hand in this case, and you're going to apparently slide off the signature and give it to them. Now you're going to put your right thumb in to the tube to unfold, pinching up with your left hand, with the other hand, and you're going to unfold everything and then immediately crumple it up, saying, this is yours, I want you to hold on to it. So they hold on to the crumpled up bill, and apparently their initials in the other hand, they can throw it back on, and then when they open it up themselves, they have the signature in the box, ready to keep as a souvenir. Hey, all you lefties out there, I don't want to make you feel left in the lurch, because I know what it's like to be a lefty left in the lurch. So we're going to do a quick annotated walkthrough for you guys as well. And this is exactly how I would perform it, being a lefty myself. So this is where I would do it. I would borrow the bill, and from the pyramid side, I would go across and down, making sure it's a little bit bigger than 1/8 of the bill. And then on the eagle side, I would make my arrow almost halfway up like this. Okay? Now I go into my fold. So George Washington is still on the outside, but then I fold the United on the inside for the next fold. I'm going to unfold one of them. And go back up with the pocket on the outside, thick side out from your fingers, thin side being concealed by the fingers. Then you're going to take your thumb and fold everything into a little packet in eighths. Rotate everything around 180 degrees, super important. And then with your left hand, you stick your thumb in and attempt to open it up quarters, which means you're going to be let with a little bit of resistance here. So you're going to fold this down into a little triangle. And now you're in the exact same position that you need to be in that we just taught the right-handers. And at this point, they can sign their name. And I now swing up with my right hand, swing down, and then pull off. Give to them. Again, I'm in this position right now, so you want to get out of that. So I push my left thumb into the tube and unfold everything, and immediately crumple it up, giving it to them. And then once the magic has happened, they can open it up themselves, and of course they realize the signature is now inside the box, and they can keep it as a little souvenir. All right, so friends, so one more thing that I want to make sure that you go over here is that when you're doing this effect, when you're going through the folding process, if you don't know exactly what you're going to say, it can be a little bit of a tedious process. There are quite a bunch of folds in order to get into that position. Now, as long as you know what you're going to say, it's not going to be a big deal at all. I do this all the time, and it flies right on by. So I'll just quickly go over what I say, just to kind of give you an idea of how long your script should be when you're doing the folding process, but keep in mind, it does not have to be anything close to what I say. All right, so once I do, I draw the arrow, I draw the box, they didn't sign it yet, and I say, okay, perfect. So you know that all good tricks kind of have to have a beginning and an end. Well, if a trick didn't have a beginning, then the end wouldn't make much sense. If a trick didn't have an end, that's just a super long magic trick, and I wouldn't want you to subject you to any of that. So I was thinking we could start at the beginning. From what I hear from an old lady friend of mine, it's a very good place to start. And that's about all the script that I usually need in order to get the fold into position that I need to, and then I can go into the signing position and then proceed as usual. Okay, so my friends, especially my international friends out there, I wanted to provide you with something that you can use this Hancock concept for, even if you don't have a currency that works like American dollar bills work. So in your download, we are also providing a PDF with an arrow and a square drawn on it already that is going to be the perfect size and perfect distance away from each other to perform this effect. So what you're going to do is you're going to download the PDF, cut it out, make as many copies as you want, and cut as many as you need to, and then you're just going to stuff them in your wallet and you're ready to go. So now you can take this out and give it to the spectator first of all and say, do you know what this is? Oh, and do you know what this is? Oh, this is the beginning. And of course, this is the end. And then go into it that way as well. So that way it's not necessarily a money effect, but rather kind of gets down to the essence of what the effect really is. And that way you can perform it no matter where you are in the world. Okay, so if you're going to do this with a white piece of paper, let me go over actually how you're going to do the fold so you know exactly how it's going to look. So because everything is already kind of pre-printed on here, you don't necessarily have to worry about drawing these, right? So after they examine it, you take it back and you go into the fold just like you normally would. Now this is designed for a right-hander, but there's also a left-handed PDF as well. So it's just going to be the exact same as we already did in the instruction, but I'm going to fold it as if I'm a right-hander right now. So you're going to fold it in half. You're going to fold it in half again, just as if you're folding it right-handed with the bill. unfold one layer and fold everything up like so. Then take the thin side, fold it back, turn everything around. You still do that. And now you're going to take your dominant thumb and put it in and crease down the triangle. And now you have the exact same position that you want to be in. You still have the step principle because you still have that line of sight going from the higher elevation to the lower elevation, and everything is going to work the exact same. The thing that you do need to be a little bit mindful of, just like with the bill, is that paper tends to be a little translucent. So you can either do what you did with the bill, which is you can hold it closer to your chest, or if you have access to a thicker stock, you might want to consider using that. That way it's a little bit less likely that you're going to see light shining through and seeing any extra folds that technically shouldn't be there. And then from there, you can do the exact same change that you did before, where you're going to pull down like this. It works the exact same way with the bill. And then you're going to unfold the exact same way you did with the bill as well. And because you still have those folds, you're still going to crumple it up the exact same way. And at the end, you're definitely going to want to hand this out as a souvenir. And because of that, that's why I would suggest printing up 10, 20 of these and keeping them with you, at least in your case, maybe having 5 or so in your wallet. That way you're always ready to go, no matter where you are in the world. Okay, guys, so this is actually where the idea for the Hancock concept came from. This is what I call impenetrable, which is kind of a conglomeration of impromptu pen-through bill, impenetrable. And again, it's a completely impromptu effect you could use with a borrowed $1 bill, borrowed pencil. It doesn't have to be a pencil. It can be a coffee stirrer, it can be a knife. It could even be another bill folded up. Doesn't matter. Okay? And so you're actually going to be surprised to know that you already know how to do this because basically it is half of the Hancock fold. Okay? So what you do is you start the exact same way, again, with the left-handed and right-handed variations in mind. You're going to fold it in half, unfold one, and then refold up here with a pocket on the outside. Believe it or not, this is the impenetrable fold. With this fold like this, as long as you are covering that seam, you're in this really cool position to do a very kind of impossible penetration effect. Because if you look very carefully, there are discrepancies. You got 2 ones, which shouldn't be there. You got a border going all the way around, which shouldn't be there. And you got half a pyramid, half of an eagle, shouldn't be there. But as long as you take your dominant hand and you put it on the middle like this and slightly downwards. So this is no good because it looks fishy. So if you go down just a little bit like this is what you want, okay? Because they can see the top of the bill, but not enough to see any discrepancies. So now, this is my favorite part. You're going to take the pencil, borrowed pencil, and you're going to apparently put it in between the folds. And I'm going to remove my thumb to show you the exposed view. But underneath your thumb, you're going to put it in here and underneath the first fold, basically in the secret pocket here. Okay? But since your thumb is here, you're going to show both sides, and you're going to basically just put it underneath the thumb and inside the fold. So now you're in a really unique position because you can show the front of the bill, you can show the back of the bill, you can even show the side of the bill. Yeah, there is a discrepancy here because this pocket shouldn't be here if it was actually folded into quarters. Laymen don't know that. Okay? So you can show the front, you show the back, you can show the side, it's really in there. And at this point, you literally just take your pencil, and from the exposed view, you're going to just let it slide through the pocket. Looks terrible from this side, but from this side, looks pretty darn good. Okay? So you can go back and forth, you can show that it's in. But here's the clincher. At this point, I do a one-handed revolve of the bill, and to do that, I pinch with my thumb and my forefinger, and my middle finger is going to go back around and clip like this, rotating everything around. And as it rotates around, now they're going to see this side of the bill, but my fingers happen to land where they need to cover what needs to be covered. Okay? So again, from the beginning, you can show the front, you can show the back, you can show the side. You go like this, 1, 2, 3. Looks like it goes through. Front, side, and then you revolve everything, and you can show the back as well. So at this point, I'm actually going to revolve it one more time, but this time I'm going to use two hands. I'm going to go back around like this, and I'm going to show the original side again. But this time, I'm angling it a little bit towards me because I don't want them to see that seam, so I'm kind of using the step principle again. Going to point that back towards me just slightly. And now you're going to go into a really cool display that you're only going to hold for a second, but it's fairly convincing, and it looks like this. Okay. And it looks like you can open it up and show that it's actually going through. So in order to do that display, we go very quickly from the top. So you go through, you show both sides, go back to the original side, and now with my dominant hand, my thumb is going to go in like this, and from my perspective, it's going to look like I put my fingers on the top of the bill like this. I'm going to just hinge it up. As I'm hinging it up, I want to make sure my fingers are touching each other like this. So these two fingers are going to touch each other. That's going to hide the seam and the fold. Okay? Now, it looks like it's going through, but it's also fairly discrepant because it does have that border going all the way around, apparently a bill folded in half, which shouldn't be. Now, A, spectators aren't going to notice that because you're only holding it for a little bit of time. And B, as you are putting that through, I'm going to take my mouth and I'm going to go up and down like this. The motion is going to encourage the eyes to focus on that and not any potential discrepancies that they might see. They're not going to see this because you're only holding it for a second. All right, take it out with the teeth, and this is another one of my favorite parts. You're going to now fold it back into quarters, but you're going to fold it back the real way. So now apparently it's in the position that it was in, but now you have eliminated all the evidence. So now you can put it inside their hand if you like, because as Michael Lamar told us many years ago, magic's always more powerful when it's in the spectator's hand. Or, especially if you're on like a Zoom call, or if you're doing something for social media, you can take, especially if you're using a pencil, you can take the eraser and pretend to erase the whole away. It's kind of a cute little thing to do. Open it back up, and now you've just done a penetration effect, pencil through bill, showing both sides completely impromptu. Guys, I'm going to say thank you, but I feel like you might think that I'm just I feel required to say thank you. So I'm going to say a genuine thank you, sincere thank you for checking out my work, purchasing this, and having interest to learning it and performing it. This is a worker routine, and I really hope that you put the practice into it that it does need, but it doesn't need that much. And then you can go out and kind of fry some spectators. It's also one of those things that I've been doing a lot over Zoom calls as well. So if you find yourself in a position where you don't have a live audience, this is one of those things that it works just as well over Zoom as well. The only thing is that I call it a virtual signature, and I just ask them, what do you want me to put underneath this arrow? And then it serves the same function as if they were here signing it themselves. So friends, if you liked what you saw today, and if you dug it, I would absolutely very much appreciate leaving a review in the review section of the website, and that lets everybody else know that this might be something worth checking out. You guys are awesome, and I hope to see you next time. See you later. This is Purnell signing off.